to Oyster Space. Hope you all are doing amazing as always. Happy New Year. I pray that this new year 2025 brings us blessings, favor, good health, and all this good stuff we've been praying and hoping for. And I also want to specially thank everyone who has subscribed to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for supporting me. If you've not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You know what to do. Just hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. From the title of this video, you know what we are talking about. It's about immigrating to Canada. So if you're in the process of immigrating to Canada, if you're just thinking about it, you're about to book your flight, you're on your way to Canada, whatever stage you're at, this video is for you. And this video will not just benefit those that intend immigrating to Canada, it will also benefit those already in Canada and those that intend immigrating to any other country. Without further ado, let's get into it. If you see me looking down here, that's because I have my laptop right here. I just have all my thoughts typed down so I don't miss out on anything. So I'll be looking like down here often. Before immigrating into Canada, there are things I would want you to look into, know about, or take into consideration. As I did mention earlier, this also applies to immigrating to any other country. And if you're also in Canada, there are things that you could learn from what we'll be talking about today. And the first thing I will be talking about is doing your research. It is very important. I remember when we were in the process of coming to Canada, we did a lot of research. We asked lots of questions and it really helped a lot. So don't forget to do your research. Immigration is something that they've been doing before I was born. People are still immigrating till now, and people would always immigrate. So immigration would never stop. And people immigrate for different reasons. Some will be to school, some will be for better life. You hear people say, I'm immigrating to give my children better future. Some immigrate for health reasons. They just need to go to a country where they would get, good health care and all that. So people have different reasons why they would just, wake up one day, decide to pack up their bags and start all over again in a new country. And if you will be leaving your life behind, you spent 20 years in a country, you'll be leaving 20 years behind to start over again in another country. I think it's very important to do your research about that country you're moving to. That's why I'm advising today, if you intend immigrating in 2025, be sure to do your research to know if Canada is the best place for you to immigrate to. This course I'm going to study, is it better I study it in Australia or Canada or the US? These are some of the things you should ask questions about, do your research about. And thank goodness, when you go on the internet today, you have answers to virtually all your questions. You would always see something that would help you. So don't forget, do your research. It's very, very important. Don't just say because everyone is moving to Canada, let me just pack up my bags, let me pack my family, let me put so much money into this process and just move to Canada without doing your own work of knowing if Canada will be better for you. Because some people, the US might actually be better for them, but because everyone is going to Canada, they just follow the bandwagon and just move to Canada. So number one thing is do your research, thorough research, ask questions, go on the internet, you would find answers to those questions. The second thing is when you finally decide to move to Canada in 2025, again, do your research and ask questions on what process will benefit you. So you can come into Canada through different means. As a student, you could get a work permit, you could come to start up a business, you could come as a permanent resident, whatever way it is. They even have a provincial nominee program where a province nominates you. You have to stay in that province for some years before you can move to another province. So you need to know what route would work for you. Well, I feel it's easy to come in as a permanent resident. It's pretty easy, but again, if you can't come in as a permanent resident, you need to look at other ways through which you can come in. Check to see if you can come in as a student. If you come in as a student, when you're done studying, are you able to stay back? So those are the things you should be asking questions about, you should be researching about to know what way would benefit you best. And when you finally decide on how you want to get into the country, ensure that you are applying the right way. No misinterpretation, no misrepresentation, no misinformation, because that could cause a lot of problem. Make sure that all your documentations are valid and correct, and you're submitting the right documents, and you're not giving wrong information. So ensure that you do the due diligence of giving the right information. This process, I would say, could be easy at times. You don't have to get like a consultant. You can always do things yourself. But for people who are in complicated situations, you might have to get a consultant. One thing I'm going to advise is ensure you work with a consultant and make sure that you're doing the right thing. Make sure that you're submitting the right documents. Follow through with the process. Follow through the process with the consultant. Don't just leave it to the consultant to do, because I've heard stories where people leave consultants to go through the process for them, and they submit wrong information that has caused problems for the applicants. So if you intend using a consultant, make sure you're following through and make sure your consultant is doing the right thing, just to save yourself from problems. So number 3 is have your proof of funds ready. If possible, have more than what is stated. And I'm going to explain why I'm laying emphasis on having your proof of funds. So the proof of funds is how you show that you have enough money to settle in Canada. And as of June 2024, they had an update, and I'm just going to read that out from my laptop. I'm also going to leave a link in the description box below. So based on your family composition, they have the amount that you should have as your proof of funds when you're coming into Canada. So if it's just you need about $14,690. If you are a family of 2, you need $18,288. If you're a family of 3, $22,483. Family of 4, $27,297. Family of 5, $30,690. Family of 6, $34,917. Family of 7, $38,875. And if you're more than 7 in your family, you just add additional $3,958 for the additional family member, and that's all you need to immigrate to Canada. So if you have more than that, I would advise you bring that in, as I mentioned. If you don't, it's totally fine if you have the stated proof of funds. But if you can afford more than what is stated, I would advise that you also come with it, and I'll explain more when we get to the next point. So to my next point, do a thorough research on the province you intend to settle in. Canada has quite a number of provinces and territories, so you need to do your research to know where is best for you. So don't just go to a province because everybody goes there. You heard this is where it's happening, or you like Lagos vibe and you heard Toronto is just like Lagos, and then you just follow the bandwagon to move to Toronto. Do your research. If I move to Toronto, am I able to easily get a job in this province? Do I have somebody who could show me the way, who I could put up with, who could, explain how it works in this province? Those are things that you should take into consideration. I intend going to Canada. Now I've started my application process. I'm open to going to any province, but what province will be of benefits to me? So do your research, ask those important questions. Don't just go to Toronto because everyone is going to Toronto and you heard that Toronto is like Lagos. If you get to Toronto, you don't get a job, you're going to end up blowing up your proof of funds on rent, because living in Toronto is expensive, right? You end up blowing your proof of funds on rent, you'll be struggling, then you would start regretting moving to Canada. When you could have moved to a smaller province where you can easily get a job, you won't have to spend much on accommodation, on feeding, and all those stuffs. So those are things you should look into. Also look into where you have family and friends that can give you that easy landing. I find that if you have a brother or sister in Canada that can easily accommodate you, it's always better you go there first, because you get that easy landing. They're able to show you the way, they're able to accommodate you, you don't have to pay for rent, maybe for the first few months. They're able to also feed you. People are nice like that. They're able to take you to 1 or 2 places. You find it easy to get your SIN number, open an account, and do all those good stuff. So you have that easy landing. So instead of just running to a province where, you heard is happening in this province because you like, the bubbling life, go to a place where you can get that easy landing. And once you're fully settled, you can now think of going to that province where you can, have that bubbling life. That's another thing. So research about the right province for you. Don't just go to a province because everybody is going there, and sometimes even when you have friends and families in a province, that might not be the best place for you, so do your research. So on to my next point. Have a plan A, B, and C. Some people come with plan A, some people come with plan A and B, but I'm going to advise add a plan C to it, and here is why. You might be a manager in your own country, but when you get to Canada or the new country you're immigrating to, you might have to take 2-3 steps back. It's okay, it's totally fine. You're starting life all over again, and I think people should have it in mind that this is something that might happen. So when you have your plan B, you know that if I can get this manager role, I can get a transitioning job. What most people call survivor job, I call it transitioning job. You could get that, and while you're doing that, you're building your Canadian experience and you're working towards getting back to where you're at, or even getting something better than what you were doing before you came into the country. So it's totally fine. And if your plan B doesn't work, you could go for a plan C. You could start a business, you could start a YouTube channel, you could start different things. You could even change your career path, go to school, do something different, write professional exams. There's so many things to do. So have a plan A, B, and C. Have it at the back of your mind that if A doesn't work, B will likely work, or C would work. Something will always work when you put in the work, you know. Again, one thing I'm going to mention is there's dignity in labor in this part of the world. So if you're working as a manager, a supervisor, or whatever, it doesn't ought to work as a receptionist, office administrator here. It's just a stepping stone. You're just building your Canadian experience. So don't give people the opportunity to look down on you, to say, oh, this guy was working as a bank manager in Nigeria or XYZ country and is in Canada now working as a receptionist, working as a security guard. Don't let people look down on you. Don't let people make you feel terrible about your choice to immigrate. As I said, if you've done your research before immigrating, you know that things like this can happen, and it's just a stepping stone to something big. So don't let people with negative mindset kind of pull you down. You just need to keep working and keep grinding till you actually achieve what you want to achieve. So it's no big deal. It's not bad at all. If your first job in Canada is a security guard or a receptionist, it's not bad. That's some people's full day job or lifetime job, I would say. That's why I don't call it survivor job. I call it transitioning job. So it's totally fine if you have to drive Uber. It's totally fine if you have to do those transitioning job. Don't let anybody make you feel bad. Even if you've made the wrong decision, you can always correct it. You can always work towards achieving something. So don't let anybody make you feel bad about anything at all, about the job you do. As far as you're paying your bills, you're feeding your family, you're totally fine. So to the next point, if you're immigrating to Canada in 2025, I want you to know that things have changed. It's now tough getting a job. Housing is on another level. Food is another level. So things are expensive. Getting a house is expensive. So you have to have it in mind that it might be hard getting a job. I've seen people who have been in Canada for months and maybe a year or more still struggling to get a job. It's something that they're dealing with. I hope it gets better soon, but just have it in mind. And that's the reason why I mentioned if you have more than the proof of funds, it would be good you bring that in, because if you're struggling to get work, you know that you have something to pay your bills and all that. And it's so hard when you have to immigrate with family. You have to think about your kids and all that. If you're coming just on your own, you can easily struggle, and find your way. But when you have children, it becomes different. That's why I mentioned earlier that if you have more than the stated proof of funds, it would be nice to bring that, because right now getting a job in Canada is really tough and housing is expensive. Renting a place is super expensive, not to even talk of buying a house. And that's where having a family or friend that can help you through the integration process comes in also. Imagine if you have a family or friend that you could share rent with, is way better than you having to pay the rent yourself. And it just makes life easy for you. And the last point, because I don't want this video to be too long, is living within your means. See, there's no competition in this part of the world. If you are in a group where people compete, I think you should just get yourself out of that group, because you're going to get yourself in big big trouble. And this is very important. And this is not just for people immigrating to Canada in 2025. It's also for people who are already in Canada. In this part of the world, there's no competition. If you do competition back home, who drives the best car, who lives in the biggest house and all that, in Canada, I would advise you don't do that type of competition. Because number one, you're going to put yourself in trouble. You're going to put your mental health in trouble. So if you're immigrating to Canada in 2025, leave that competition aside. That your friend lives in a massive detached home doesn't mean you should join them to buy a massive detached home when what you can afford is a duplex or a townhouse. So learn to live within your means. The people are buying the latest cars doesn't mean you should follow them to buy the latest car when you cannot afford it. Buy the 2013, 2014 car, and when you eventually settle and you can afford the latest car, you can go for it. I've heard a number of people get themselves in trouble because they want to do what your friends are doing. You want to rent a 3-bedroom when you actually do not need a 3-bedroom, but you're doing it because your friends are living in a 3-bedroom house. Or you're saying, oh, I can't live in a basement, when what you can actually afford is a basement. There is no competition. Start from, all those little beginnings they talk about. Start from there and just build your way up to the top. Don't start from a level that will choke you. Because it's easy to just get carried away in this country and just be like, yeah, I'll just go for it. Is it not just to get 1 or 2 more jobs? It's not easy doing 2 or 3 jobs. And I'm not even going to advise people to, overwork themselves. So live within your means. You don't have to buy human hair you can't afford. You don't have to buy designer bags you can't afford. If you're in a circle where they compete a lot, who goes for vacation 4 times a year, who goes for vacation this, who does this, who lives in the biggest house, who drives the best car, I think it's time you get yourself out of that group. So if you're coming to Canada with that mindset that I want to be on the same level with my friends no matter what, you're just setting yourself for disaster. You're setting yourself up for problems. Don't rush to buy a house. People coming to Canada, they buy a house within 2 months, 6 months, 1 year. It's totally fine. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's situation is different. Don't say because you're buying a house within a year or 2, I have to also do the same. Some people will buy theirs within 5 years. Some will buy within 10 years. Buying a house is not easy. Not now that interest rate is something else. The cost of buying a house is on another level. And then you have all those bills that you have to pay as a homeowner. So do your research. Know where you stand first before you join the bandwagon of everybody is buying a house within 6 months. Let me jump to go and buy a house, or buy a house that is more than what you can actually afford, and then you have to start working 2-3 days, and then you start having psychological problems or mental problems when you have to pay your mortgage and all those things. So no competition. So this is all I just want you to take into consideration or know before you immigrate to Canada in 2025 or before you move to any country of your choice. And finally, I just want you to know that Canada is a beautiful country. Canada is a beautiful place. Canada is big. Canada is a land of opportunities, and you can achieve whatever you want to achieve in this country. You just have to put in the work. You have to be disciplined. You have to work hard, and you need to have a positive mindset. And you can be who you want to be. You can achieve whatever you want to achieve. So that'll be all for today. I see you in my next one. Don't forget to like, share, leave a comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also stay safe wherever you are. Do have a wonderful one. Bye.